Hello students, let's start our fourth session of June month, right? So in the June month, as we see, the topics that are economy, then polity, and then finally the ecology portion, right? So let's start very quickly with the economy portion. The first topic is electronic negotiable warehouse receipt. Okay, so what's the principle basically? So the farmer is there and he has his product and he keeps his product in a warehouse, right? So he'll get a receipt from the person from the warehouse, right? The person responsible for the warehouse, he will give him the receipt. Now this person can use this receipt to get the future loan for his next crop, because this crop will not be sold, for example, let's say 2 months, 3 months. So the farmer should not wait for this crop to be sold. So this guy will give him the receipt of the price. For example, this is worth of 5,000 rupees. So this guy will give him the receipt saying that this the farmer has 5,000 rupees. He has given the 5,000 rupees worth of crop in our warehouse. Now the farmer has this receipt and he can use this receipt to get more credit. He can give this slip to the banks to establish his credibility that he has this much crop. This can use as a collateral as well. So EWR was launched by the Central Warehousing Corporation under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. So this is what you have to remember: Ministry of Consumer Affairs, prelims, right? Not the mains. Okay, so document issued by the warehouse depositors against the commodities that have been there. Okay, these can be transferred from one person to the another, or can be mortgaged in the bank to avail the finance, as I explained to you. So Central Warehousing Corporation launches e-negotiable receipts. This is very relevant for the credit supply, the cash supply to the farmer, so that he does not have to depend upon the informal lenders. Next is tax information exchange agreement. From the name itself is very clear: tax information exchange agreement. That means it's an instrument for to avoid the problem of tax evasion and tax avoidance, right? So India has notified a tax information exchange agreement with, particularly this news is with, Marshall Island. It was developed by OECD Global Forum working group on effective exchange of the information. Okay, you need to remember what is OECD, right? I'll leave it up to you. We will cover that in our international affairs. The agreement also provides for the representative of one country to undertake the tax examinations in the other country, and will help curb the tax evasion and the tax avoidance. That's all you need to remember. One more most important thing: these are not binding instruments. These are sort of agreements and the pact that we sign, right? So India notifies tax information exchange pact with Marshall Island. If you see the location of Marshall Island, so the location of Marshall Island is really important. It was too much in news last year as well. Okay, now that's your job. Why it was in news? It was related to International Court of Justice. I'm just giving you a hint. So use the comment box to let me know. I'll reply on it. So Marshall Islands in the Pacifics. Okay, so agreement for the exchange of information between India and the Marshall Island notified. Next is NIMZ, National Investment and Manufacturing Zones. It envisaged as an integrated, from the name itself. So there will be a place, there will be a zone which will try to promote investment in India, and that will try to promote the manufacturing in India. So it is envisaged as an integrated industrial township with the state-of-the-art infrastructure to promote a world-class manufacturing activities. At least 30% of the total land proposed for the NIMZ will be utilized for the location of the manufacturing unit. Means 30% land which is given for the NIMZ, on the 30% of the land there should be manufacturing, right? So the manufacturing sector has to be promoted because of the main employment. Land for these zones will be preferably be waste. So what land should be given for NIMZ? Such as which is not fit for cultivation, right? The food security concerns of India. So waste, infertile land not suitable for cultivation, not in vicinity of any ecological fragile area. That is also one of the consideration, that it should not be very close to the ecologically fragile areas, right? And with reasonable access to the basic resource. Who is responsible for this? Is DI, Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, right? DIPP. It was earlier DIPP. Now it has been changed, Department of Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade. So DP IIT. Okay. So now that's the important. So we'll also see the comparison of NIMZ with SEZ. SEZ we have not covered, but just the comparison. Okay. So NIMZ is declared by the state government as an industrial township under Article 243Q. So remember, we have so many types of, if you remember your polity textbooks, so we have so many different types of urban governance center. So it is one of the urban center, that is townships. So NIMZ will be the industrial township under this article. Central government provides the external physical infrastructure linkage to this, and state government will be constituting an SPV to discharge the function specified in the policy. SPV will prepare a strategy for the development of the zone and action plan for the self-regulation to serve the purpose of the policy, right? So establishment of NIMZ. One more important thing, this is NIMZ are important, just one second, are the important instruments of the national manufacturing policy. So the origin of NIMZ lies in the national manufacturing policy. Now here we are comparing NIMZ with the same. I just wanted to keep the order. So the first point will be related to NIMZ and second will be SEZ. So the origin. So origin of the NIMZ lies in the National Manufacturing Policy, and for SEZ lies in the SEZ Act. So there is a specific SEZ Act. There is no specific NIMZ Act. Remember that. Okay. Next, the minimum area and the maximum area. Right. So you can remember from this diagram, this small diagram I have made for you only. So the SEZ has minimum area of 10 hectare and the maximum area of 5,000 hectare, right? For an IMZ, the minimum area is 5,000 hectare and it can go up to any extent. It is not specified, right? The income tax exemptions, you don't have to remember it, but for NIMZ, it is given to the small and medium enterprise, and for SEZ, it is given to the 50%, for the 5-year 100% exemptions have been given. Next is environmental impacts assessment. For NIMZ, it is being done by the state government, but for the SEZ, it is done by the project developer. Okay. So just need to remember the basic difference, the origin difference, the area difference, and the EIA if it comes. Exemptions, very technical. They won't ask it. Next is the credit rating agencies in India, right? This topic has been in news because Economic Survey has many times hinted that the credit rating agencies work in India and the abroad, not only India, in the global also. For example, Moody's. So they are not very objective in their ratings, right? In 2008 crisis, the recent crisis, the crisis with respect to IL&FS crisis, right? So these all crises showcase the problem of the Indian credit agency in India. Okay, you can do reading of IL&FS crisis. I'll cover it somewhere down the line. All the credit agency needs to be so. We'll discuss the current affair facts. Some facts with respect to credit rating agencies in India. So they need to be registered with the SEBI. Currently, we have around 7 credit rating agencies like CRISIL, ICRA, CARE, India Rating, okay, Brickwork, and all others. They follow an issuer pays model, and that's the problem. For example, from where this credit agency gets the money, this credit agency has to give the credit to the, for example, I am a company, right? I will have to float a bond in the market. So this credit agency will tell whether this company, the credibility of the company, they will provide me the rating. For example, what are the chances that I will fulfill my commitments, right? I'm giving a very layman example. But the problem is, I am the one, if I float my bond, I am also the one who is paying the money to the agency, these credit rating agencies, to the credit of my bond. And there lies the problem. There lies a conflict of interest. I'll pay them to give me good ratings, right? And that is the problem. So next point is the rating shopping. So it is a practice of an issuer choosing the rating agency that will either assign the highest rating or that has the lax criteria for achieving the desired rating, right? So I will shop. I want to give my bond or go for an equity, right? So I will pay these agencies a good amount of money so that they give me a favorable rating, so that I have more chance of getting the investment. Getting the point? So the question can come, the rating shopping is in the news, it is with respect to what? So I'm doing the shopping. For example, one credit rating agency is saying, we'll give you 5 stars. I'm giving you an example. And someone says, I'll give you only 2 star. You are not reliable. So I will go for the other one and I'll pay the money to that one also, right? And that is one of the problems. Next is CAFE, Corporate Average Fuel Economy Regulations. So what is basically this CAFE? That is lowering the fuel consumption or improving the fuel efficiency of the vehicle by lowering the carbon dioxide emissions. So basically it is more related to the ecology portion, because it says that, for example, first we say corporate average. It is a volume weighted average for the every auto manufacturer. For example, you are manufacturing also the Toyota, you are also manufacturing the other small, Toyota is manufacturing a big car and also a small car. I'm giving an example. So they will weigh it, they will come under weighted average. You know the concept of weighted average, very easy concept, right? High weightage to the trucks, low weightage to the cars, like that. So they'll come up with a number and they will put a cap on it. That is, so first of all, the norms are applicable to all the vehicles. In India, these regulations from 2017. So basically we'll see. So the CAFE or the Corporate Average Fuel Efficiency Economy regulations are enforced in many advanced as well as in a developing country. They aim at the lowering the fuel consumptions, okay, or improving the fuel efficiency of the vehicle by lowering the carbon dioxide emissions. We did that. Thus serving the twin purpose of both dependence on the oil, it reduces and also the control of the pollution. So basically they are saying, you see here, under this average corporate CO2 emissions must be less than 130 gram per kilometer till 2022. So every corporate manufacturer, every automobile manufacturer has to ensure that the vehicles that they are producing are adhering to the cap that has been given. For example, 130 gram per kilometer, not more than that. And after that, after 2022, it will be 113 gram per kilometer. And it is highly relevant in the times of the electrical vehicle. If one company produces this electrical vehicle, this corporate average will come down, obviously, because the electrical vehicle will produce really very much. And on the other hand, the trucks, the cars, the SUVs will produce more carbon dioxide. So it gives an incentive to the manufacturer also to put a chunk of their cars in the electric vehicle segment, right? You can get that. Next is complaint management system. So from the name itself, complaint, right? So that means it is a grievance redressal mechanism. But remember, grievance redressal of the people, not the banks. So launched by RBI first of all. Okay, to facilitate the bank customer grievance redressal process. The CMS portal can be accessed on the RBI website and complaints can be lodged against any of the entities regulated by the central bank, right? So this is the portal. Look, this is the press release by the RBI that they are going to launch a complaint management system. Next is Bharat Bill Payment System. Very famous. I think you must have used it also. So it's an integrated bill payment system. Just like I'm giving an example, how you pay your electricity bill. Earlier, my father used to go for standing in the queue, go to the electricity, that particular place. Here is to pay the bill. Now, it's very easy. Just like he pays from this Bharat bill or he pays from the Paytm. So it is this system is given by NPCI, right? Similar to the other operators such as Paytm, Amazon Pay, they have their own system. So it is an integrated bill payment system in India offering an interoperable and accessible bill payment service to the customer. It is owned by NPCI. Okay. So NPCI, we have already did NPCI. So it's an umbrella organization for all the retail payments and it has 10 promoter bank. But we've already done NPCI. So Bharat Bill Payment System. So anywhere bill payment you can do. Mobile bill, DTH, water bill, gas bill, electricity bill, right? You can pay all the things from your home itself. Next, very important, MCA 21 database. So MCA 21 database is really important. What it is? It's an e-governance initiative launched in 2006. It allows firms to electronically file their financial results and advance filing of the corporate accounts to calculate the national accounts. So the country wants to know the statistical the counting of our national income GDP requires this financial results and the filings of the corporate accounts. So the MCN database helps in this regard. It, apart from the IIP and ASI, it is maintained it also includes, in addition to the volume index of the IIP, and we'll discuss this annual survey of industries, we'll discuss that, and it is maintained by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So MCA, from the name itself you can remember Ministry of Corporate Affairs, but it's not that, it's MCA21 database, gateway to citizen and the corporate, right? So in that you can see, you can that as a firm you can enter all the database into this MCA portal. Now this portal has become more significant post 2005 when the GDP calculations in India have changed, have been tweaked, right? We'll discuss somewhere, because that's more static syllabus, the GDP calculation, not turned to the era of GVA, gross value addition, right? So after 2015 there has been some changes. Next is the MOU between the SEBI and the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So SEBI and Ministry of Corporate Affairs have signed a MOU to facilitate the seamless sharing of the data and information for carrying out scrutiny, inspection, investigation and prosecution. Very easy. MCA has all the data of the companies, right? Companies including their subsidiaries, right? Whereas SEBI has only data of the registered or listed, not registered, listed companies. But these listed companies also have many unlisted subsidiaries, and there the data issue is there. So SEBI wants that data from the MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. This assumes significance that MCA has the database of all the registered firms, while SEBI has only the regulated listed entities that may have unlisted subsidiaries, with MCA having an access to all the data of unlisted entities. So that data will go to the SEBI, right? So it will give back for more data scrutiny. Why the overall task has been done? Tax evasion, tax invasion done by the companies, the problem of the shell companies, right? Tracking down on the shell companies, because shell companies are the instrument for the money laundering, right? Placing, layering and integration for tightening the regulatory oversight. Okay. Next is periodic labor force survey. So launched in 2016-17 by NSSO. Recently its report has come. Actually the report was supposed to, they have completed the report before the election, but it has been alleged that the government has postponed the report from pre-election to the post-election. So it's a regular survey for generating the estimates of labor force indication on the quarterly basis for the urban area and annual basis for the rural and the urban areas, at both state and the all India level. Would supply data not only from the formal sector but also from the informal sector. Actually UPSC has asked one question on the survey, so that is important for you to remember the details of the survey. Okay. So this periodic labor force survey is designed to generate the indicators they have used using two approaches. First, the usual status approach, and second is the current weekly status report. So usual status report and current weekly status report. So two approaches they have used. We'll discuss the three approaches here, but remember they have used only two approaches. In this survey, the computer assisted personal interviewing has been taken care of. Not very much important, right? The tablets and all these things. Now why it was relevant? Because it comes up with very revealing data about the state of unemployment in India, right? So unemployment on the rise among the urban youth, finds the survey. Unemployment among the youth in the December quarter was highest in the Bihar and in the lowest in the Gujarat. Remember, for urban area it calculates quarterly. Okay. Next is the increase in there is an increase in the urban youth taking the formal vocational training, but still it is really less, 4.7. The Niti Aayog has compared the countries laterally, and they come in South Korea now more than 90% of the youth are trained, skilled. Okay. So this periodic labor for survey, they have come up with this report on the June 26th, right? Now the approaches that they have discussed, the usual status approach and the current weekly status, we'll discuss that. First, the usual status approach. So this approach is, first of all, this approach is for the, just remember, for calculating the employment and the unemployment status in India, right? So this approach records not only those persons as unemployed, records only those persons as unemployed who had no gainful work for the major time during the 365 days preceding the date of the survey. So unemployed are those who have no work for the 365 days or 1 year, right? And are seeking, first of all, they must be seeking or are available for work. Thus, the estimates of the unemployment obtained from the basis of the usual status approach are expected to capture long-term open unemployment. Long-term open unemployment. Why? Because they have been out of the job for 1 year. Next, weekly status report approach. So in this approach, the current activity status related to the week preceding the date of the survey is recorded, and those persons are classified as unemployed who did not have gainful employment for even 1 hour on any day in the preceding week. So for 7 days, if you do not have work for less than 1 hour cumulatively, then you are unemployed and were seeking, obviously they were seeking the employment. Person who may be employed on the usual status. Now comparing the both the things. For example, you are said as employed on the usual status approach. For example, you found work in last 365 days, you found work on the 1 day, right? So you are said employed in the usual status approach. But will you be, for example, in the last week you have no work, before that week no work, so you will not be employed according to weekly status approach, right? So what is saying, the person who may be employed on the usual status approach may, however, become intermittently unemployed during some seasons or the part of the year, right? So it captures the seasonal unemployment. So unlike the usual status approach, the weekly status approach would capture not only the open chronic unemployment but also the seasonal unemployment. So it also captures the idea of the problem of the seasonal unemployment. In the example is agriculture. Besides, this approach provides weekly average rate of unemployment, right? Now you get the difference, very easy. Third is the daily status approach. The weekly status approach, now they say that 1 day, 1 hour you have worked, you are fine, you are employed. But the daily status approach checks you daily. The weekly status approach records a person employed even if he or she works only for an hour on any day of the whole week. So you work for 1 day, 1 hour, and you are employed from this weekly status approach. Thus, it is clear that the weekly status approach would tend to underestimate the unemployment in the economy because it does not appear to be proper to treat all those who have been unemployed for the whole week except 1 week, 1 hour as an employee. For example, he is saying all those people are equal, those who are working 50 hours a day and equal those who are working 2 hours a day, 2 hours a week. According to weekly approach, both are employed, right? Both have done more than the 1 hour. Indeed, the demand of the labor in the farming and the non-farming often fluctuates over the small periods within the week. So they are saying that these farming and non-farming areas, the demand of the work can fluctuate within the week also. So we need, hence the daily status approach is a magnitude, can be magnitude of the underemployment and the unemployment, both, right? So we can see, just one second, in daily status approach, the current activity state of person with regard to whether employed or unemployed or outside the labor force is recorded for the each day in the reference week. So you will be recorded on the each day 1 to 7 you will be recorded. Further, estimating unemployment half day has been adopted as a unit of the measurement. So they have one more criteria of half day employment, right? Now you'll see here, a person who works for the 4 hours and more than 8 hours on the day or more than recorded as the unemployed for the full day, recorded as the employed for the full day. So for example, you are working 4 to 8 hours, then you are employed, right? One who works an hour or more but less than 1 to 4. So 1 to 4 if you are working, you are half day employed, right? So no, if you're working less than 1 hour, then you are unemployed for the day. Getting my point? So there are 3 categories: less than 1, then 1 to 4, then 4 to 8 or 4 plus, you'll say. Okay, then you are depending upon this the number of hours you are working on the daily basis, you will be unemployed, half employed, or employed. So half employed will tell you the status of underemployment in India. Okay. Hence, daily users concept of the unemployment is more inclusive than those of the usual status or the weekly status. Obviously, the status approach, and this would yield then average number of the unemployed person per day in a year, indicating the magnitude of both open employment and underemployment. Right. So this is what you need to remember. Right. Okay. So a long approach. So we started with this periodic labor force participation survey, right? Okay. Then we discussed this usual approach, this current weekly approach, and the daily approach. What is the difference between three, and how the daily approach also considers the half-day unemployment. They can ask you question with respect, if they want to ask a tough question, they'll ask you half-day unemployment is with respect to which approach first, what it captures, and more tough they want to ask, they will ask you the number of hours also, right? Because this survey has made a lot of headlines into the media, right? And employment is one of the problems before this particular government also. Next is FSDC. Now the question on FSDC, that is Financial Stability and Development Council, has already been asked in the UPSC, right? However, this is a very important body, right? We'll see why. First, FSDC is an apex level body constituted by the government of India. The idea is to create such a super regulatory body was first mooted by the Raghu Ram Rajan in 2008. Raghu Ram Rajan in 2008 has discussed about this, has floated the idea that we should have this body. What this body will do, it will consist of all the regulators. We'll see the members also in detail. All the regulators and the Ministry of Finance. It is the highest forum in the matters related to the financial stability. The council is chaired by the Union Finance Minister. So the responsibility include the financial stability, right? So the overarching idea of financial stability, then financial sector development, then microprudence surveillance of the economy, so that any area which is not getting, for example, NPA, if that is not getting hit to, then we should focus on that. Next, financial literacy and financial inclusion, and this one you must remember, because if they ask you the functions, so you may miss out on that why it will focus on this financial literacy and financial inclusion. But yes, it focuses on this also. And more importantly, and this is very logical, that inter-agency, inter-regulatory coordination. So you can see the meeting here, Union Finance Minister chairing the meeting. So chairman is Union Finance Minister. Who are the members? Governor of RBI, right? That you have to remember. You don't have to remember the secretaries. You have to remember the Chief Economic Advisor is there. So secretary, if you remember, so who will be? Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of METI is there. Okay, METI, Secretary of METI, right? Secretary of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Secretary of Department of Financial Service within the Finance Ministry. And within the Finance Ministry, one more Secretary of DEA, Department of Economic Affairs. So within the Finance Ministry, there are 2 departments. There are 5 departments, but 2 department secretary are there in the FSDC. Apart from that, MCA and METI, along with the RBI and the Chief Economic Advisor. With respect to the regulator, who are there? First, SEBI, then IRDA, then PFRDA, then IIB. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. The chairman of Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Board of India is also there. PFRDA, that is Pension Fund and Regulatory and Development Authority. Okay. So the responsibility along with these, one more responsibility is responsible for coordinating India's international interface with the financial sector bodies like FATF and FSB. FATF, that is Financial Action Task Force. Financial Action Task Force and Financial Stability Board. Any such body as may be decided by the Finance Minister from time to time. We quickly will see this body. Now I'm planning to cover FATF in detail in the international affairs, but quickly we'll see so that to completion, sense of completion for the topic. So FATF is an international organization founded in 1989. Just one second. Yes. So international organization founded in 1989 on the initiative of G7. So G7 initiated this FATF to develop the policies to combat the money laundering, right? Its mandate expanded to include the terrorist financing. Okay, you can see the Pakistan, pressure on the Pakistan is with respect to this increased mandate only. It monitors the progress of implementing the FATF recommendation through peer reviews, right? Now coming to the Financial Stability Board, just like FATF was the initiative of the G7, we can see FSB, Financial Stability Board, is the initiative of the G20. So Financial Stability Board is an international body that monitors and make recommendations about the global financial system. It was established after the 2009 summit, nothing more than a successor to the Financial Stability Forum. Okay, it includes the G20 major economy, its member, and European Commission. That's all you need to know. Next is the Monetary Policy Committee. So Monetary Policy Committee is basically, the question already has come on Monetary Policy Committee. One point I like to highlight, that it does not, the CRR, cash reserve ratio, is not in the ambit of Monetary Policy Committee. Just remember that. Okay, so you know everything. The Urjit Patel Committee recommended it. I hope you have done it. It's very easy. Like it has been asked also, right? It's a 6-member body, 3 by the government and 3 by the RBI. Okay, the head by the RBI governor. An RBI governor will have a casting vote in times of the tie. They should meet at least 4 times. They have responsibility to maintain CPI between 2 and 6, something like that. That's all basic information. The more important, this CRR is not maintained by MPC. So who maintains the CRR? CRR is done by the RBI. Right? Remember, MPC also includes the government, but RBI sole has the authority over the CRR. Monetary Policy Committee, RBI governor, and then government nominated member, right? 3 plus 3. Okay, it's an old photo. So that's what it is. Why it was in the news? Because now people have said that the MPC's horizon should be broadened. The instrument like CRR should be brought into it. The economists are divided. You see, some economists say that CRR will not help. For example, Urjit Patel was of the view that CRR, there is no need to include CRR in this MPC. For example, CRR is not in the ambit of MPC. And secondly, we see no reasons to use CRR when there are so many other instruments at our disposal for liquidity management. On the other hand, some say that the repo rate and reverse repo rate, the repo rate basically is not very effective instrument. The MPC should have more power towards the instruments like CRR to manage the liquidity, right? Okay, I hope that you have the prerequisites of the economy now. This is March going on, isn't it? So you need to know about CRR, SLR, the quantitative tools, the qualitative tools, which tool is called the selective tools, right? Direct tools, indirect tools. You all need to remember that. You need to know that at least. Okay, so we are done with our economics. Now we will start our polity discussion. Now we start our polity discussion. So that has been said, right, Jishnu? So restart, huh? Now in the polity, we'll see first topic is Article 371A. So it is related to the special status first of all, and it is which state? Nagaland, right? It has been in the news, many times it has been in the news. Last year it was in news because the reservation of women into the Naga local elections. So that thing you must read on your own because it was a last year, I think last year it was in current affairs. Then again, the issue of the Naga Peace Accord, which is not in the public domain, but anytime it can be made public. So because of that also. And thirdly, because the Nagas, now they are fearing that currently if we see in this scenario, they are fearing that how the government has revoked the special status of the Jammu and Kashmir, their status can also be threatened. But the government has reassured them that your situation is very different from Jammu and Kashmir and your status will not be tampered with, right? So we quickly will see the constitutional aspects of it, and as I told you last time, that we will take care of a few topics in a very static manner, because polity we won't find any too much current affairs, right? Almost everything is more of an static. They just creep on, they just become the part of the news, right? Okay, so Article 371 guarantees special status for the people of the northeastern state of Nagaland. It safeguards the customary right of Nagas. Okay, we will discuss that. Okay, so It says that land and the resources of Nagaland belong to the people and not to the government. Landowners usually wield the provision under this to prevent the government from carrying out the developmental activities on their land. So the news, that is why it was in news. Why? Because the developmental activity into the region. What they say basically, we'll see in the next slide only. The land and the resources in Nagaland belong to the people, not to the government. That's what they argue. The landowners usually wield the provision under this article to prevent the government from carrying out the developmental activities on their land. Because, for example, government wants to have its own railway. Now the people will say, and the government has to do some land acquisition, and they face problem. The government face problem in the land acquisition. So this is the constitution itself, Article 371A with respect to the Nagaland. So it says, notwithstanding anything in the constitution, no act of the parliament in respect of these areas shall apply to the state of Nagaland unless and until the legislative assembly of the Nagaland by a resolution so decides. Right? So we'll see in detail. So Article 371A, it should be 371A. First, it talks about Act of Parliament. So Act of Parliament dealing with the topics like religious and the social practice of Naga customary law and the procedures, administration of the civil and the criminal justice, okay, the decision which are according to the Naga customary law, ownership and transfer of the land resource, and this is why it was in the news. So they're saying that any act which interferes into all these things will not be applicable to the Nagaland unless until the state government, the state assembly with the resolution passes it, right? And this is what it says, right? Legislative assembly of the Nagaland passes it by a resolution, right? So you need to remember that Act of Parliament is not applicable with respect to these 4 parameters. And you can see very broad ranging parameters: religious and social practices, customary laws and procedure, administration of civil and the criminal justice. What else? A lot of topics are in this. Decision according to the Naga customary laws, ownership and transfer of the land resources. Next, they have given some power to the governor. First, he has the power to maintain the law and order, and he can consult the council of minister. However, he has to take the decision in his discretion. The governor has discretion in this state, right? Next, the money given by the central government. For example, the central governments provide some money to the Nagaland. So the constitution says that the governors, it is the responsibility of the governor to make sure that these money, the money that is given to them, should not be used in the other areas. Getting my point? So it should be included in the demand of grant for the specific purpose for which the central government has given the money. Next, they talk about having a regional council of 35 members for the state, for the district of Tuan Sang. We'll see that, right? So they are saying that we should have a regional council, right? Now, what that council will be, what will be the qualification, what will be the procedure of election, all thing will be decided by the governor. Remember that, not the state legislative assembly, by the governor. Okay, so he will decide the regional council thing. So I'm talking about the state, the district, that is Tuan Sang district. Now, apart from these 4 provisions, right, first was the act, 2 provisions for the governor, and 1 was the regional council. There was 5th provision which listed some other measures. Now, if you see the constitution, this is like that. If you see your book, Lakshmikant, also there mentioned. But these provisions were said to be only for the 10 years. For 10 years, these provisions will be applicable, right? And however, finally, 1973, I think the provision have been done, and now those provisions now cease to be operative. So what you need to remember, only the 4 provisions that I have discussed, right? So one topic in detail we have discussed, Article 371A. I don't think so you need anything more than that, right? We quickly move to the next topic. The location you need to remember that it is close to the Myanmar border, right? Next is Economic Advisory Council, EAC PM. That is Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. So it's an independent body which provides advice to the economic issues of the government specific to the Prime Minister. And this idea, Mr. Modi has reconstituted this EAC. Now this idea has not been new. Indira Gandhi also is the, I'm reading a book of Mantek Singh Ahluwalia, Backstage. So in which he mentions the important policy decisions taken by this EAC, Economic Advisory Council. So it's a non-constitution, not mentioned in the constitution. It's a non-statutory, non-permanent body, just giving a informal advices to the formal advices, but in a very informal manner to the Prime Minister himself. The questions which Prime Minister puts in front of this council, along with the questions which the council itself thinks that they are important. So it is written, it can advise either suo motu or on the reference from the Prime Minister or anyone else. So the government has reconstituted Economic Advisory Council. Vivek Dev Roy has been is the chairman of the ESCPM. Now, many a times if you see Twitter or news, many of the ESC member are they are open in their they are not always supporting the government. You can see here, Ashima Goyal says that budget was disappointing for lacking vision, right? So they can speak their mind. Nothing for prelim stuff, that I'm just letting you know. Next thing is the Ranbir Penal Code. Okay, first it is in the Jammu and Kashmir. Actually, before this revocation of Article 370, IPC was not applicable to the Jammu and Kashmir. So in the Jammu and Kashmir, it was the Ranbir Penal Code which was applicable. Last year it was news because of this. They have included the provision with respect to the sexual harassment last year. So they have inserted a section to provide the offense for the sextortion, right? They have included this provision. Jammu and Kashmir has become the first state in the country to bring a law to prevent people from power from exploiting the subordinate sexually. So some sort of very empowered sexual harassment law has been passed in the Ranbir Penal Code. Now, first we'll see what Ranbir Penal Code is, and Ranbir Penal Code has been dissolved. Why? After this 370, right? And henceforth the Indian Penal Code will force into the region, right? So Ranbir Penal Code was the main criminal code applicable in the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. The code was introduced during the reign of the Dogra dynasty with Ranbir Singh as its ruler, and hence the name after him. So Ranbir was the name of the ruler of the Jammu and Kashmir at that time, right? From that time it was there, and that's all you need to remember. Okay, so Indian Penal Code will replace the Ranbir Penal Code to deal with the criminal matters in Article 356, under which the present rule can be imposed in the state. It will be applicable in the territory and with the, okay, that's all. Next thing important is leader of opposition. I hope you have done all this in your statics thing, but that was in the news, that's why we have to take it. Leader of the opposition. Why again in news? Because the election happened, and again there is no party which can properly claim this leader of opposition. First of all, it's a statutory post, right? So it, according to the direction, speaker is not okay. First of all, this the convention is that the party with 1/10 of the seats in the Lok Sabha, that leader will be the leader of the opposition. However, the speaker is not obliged to recognize any member of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha, as LOP in the party does not have a strength equal to 1/10 or the quorum required for the sitting of the house. Getting my point? So the party should have at least more than 1/10 of the seats to claim as a right that we should have a LOP. More importantly, LOP enjoys the rank of the cabinet minister. Now, LOP in the US is known as the minority leader, right? Minority leader. You must have heard of the shadow cabinet of the UK. So there the LOP is said to be the shadow cabinet is basically one. There's a normal cabinet, people elected it. There is also a shadow cabinet. So opposition from is shadow cabinet. It is said that if this particular government does not survive, so this government comes into being and it replaces the earlier this government. Okay, so this LOP acts as a future prime minister if this government goes down, right? So not de facto, but he can be a prime minister, LOP, and the shadow cabinet idea is taken in the UK. In fact, one of the recommendations of the Indian parliamentary system to improve Indian parliamentary system is to have a shadow cabinet system in India itself. Next, we're going to see the topic of cabinet committees. Okay, so we're going to see this topic in detail. We see in detail Article 371A and cabinet committees. Last time we did anti-defection law and tribunals. So they are extra constitutional body not mentioned in the constitution. Okay, provided by the government of India, transaction of the business rules, some rules they are provided that you can have these cabinet committees. So what is this is we'll discuss later. It is set up by Prime Minister. There are two types, standing and the ad hoc. So from the name itself, standing and the ad hoc. Ad hoc means for a particular purpose it has been brought up and it will dissolve after that particular work is done. That's it. That is ad hoc. Right? And we also see ad hoc parliamentary committees also. Right? Okay. The former are permanent nature and while later are the temporary nature. Cabinet can review the decision. They usually contains only the cabinet member. However, the non-cabinet member are not debarred from the membership. Okay, so cabinet committee does not necessarily have the cabinet members only. They can also have the members apart from the cabinet. They are mostly headed by the Prime Minister. We'll see. Now, cabinet, first is cabinet. In between the Prime Minister, it should be there. Then the cabinet committees. Okay. Now, cabinet word itself is mentioned in your constitution in article 352. Originally, the cabinet was not there in the constitution. It is discussed in the article 3, no, it is written in the under the article 352. So, this word is mentioned in your constitution, right? Now, cabinet committees are not mentioned in the constitution. So, the PM with the help of the cabinet, then he forms cabinet committee for a specific purpose. Now, we had six current committees. First, a political affair, economic affair, appointment committee, cabinet committee on security, cabinet committee on accommodation, cabinet committee on parliamentary affair. From the name itself, very clear. So, political affair is also the most powerful. It is known as a super cabinet. Okay. This is known as the super cabinet, cabinet committee on the political affairs, right? So this cabinet committee on the political affairs take care of the political affairs of domestic and the international thing. Economic affair, with respect to the economy, these are the four main committees. These two are not important committees. So why I have kept it in box? Because they are not headed by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister does not head them. Cabinet committee on the parliamentary affair and this cabinet committee on the accommodation. Remember that. Prime Minister does not head these committees, right? Cabinet committee on the economic affair, so much in news. Final decision taken on the MSP by cabinet committee on economic affair. Of investment more than 1,000 crore, taken decision by cabinet committee on economic affair. Appointments committee, the big appointments that are made, right? For example, cabinet secretary, other many appointments that are made, big appointments, ambassadors and all these, they are done by the appointment committee of the cabinet. And cabinet committee on security, the highest body on that takes decision on the security things. Okay, that is the highest decision making body on the cabinet committee on security, right? So this is all it is. So now why it's in news? Because two additional committees have been added by the government. They have added two additional committees. First, Committee on Investment and the Growth. So to be chaired by Prime Minister, consists of Home Minister, Finance Minister, Minister of Road and Transport, MSME and Railway Minister. It's a new committee, that is why you need to remember that, right? So consists of the Home Minister. It's not mentioned in the Constitution, no statute is there, but it is non-constitutional body. Okay. So this committee will be focus group to take the measures from the name itself, investment and the growth. You can skip this paragraph itself. So what's this saying? Measures to bring investment, spur growth in critical sectors including infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, as economy is passing through a highly volatile period, a slowdown. Next, the second committee that has been added, Committee on Employment and the Skill Development, right? I told you, periodic labor participation survey, that survey, periodic labor force survey, right? So 10-member committee will be prepare a roadmap to bring economy back on the growth trajectory using employment and the skill development. They will take care of all the initiatives that have been taken. So they will have a macro view of all the, for example, we have a specific ministry, MSDE, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So this committee particularly will take care of this, will take care of how the initiatives are going on, what are the interventions are needed. Next topic we're going to see LIMS. That is Legal Information Management and Briefing System. So it's a web-based portal. So basically what it is, in the judiciary, one of the major litigants is, in the last discussion I was talking about tribunals, right? So I told you the major litigant is government itself. So they have come up with this LIMS portal on which it is developed by Ministry of Law and Justice for monitoring and handling of the various court cases of the government department and the ministries. So this portal will help government to have a bird's eye view of the number of cases that are pending from the government side in the judiciary, right? It helps the authorities to take the data-driven decision making. How much time particular case is taking, why this case has been filed, right? From particular department, a large number of cases have been filed. Why it is so? Do we need an intervention in that particular department? Like these. To evaluate the performance of various stakeholders and to conduct a legal audit. Okay. So this is the LIMS program, Legal Information Management and Briefing System, Ministry of Law and Justice, Department of Legal Affairs. Okay. So number of advocate, number of ministry, and number of user, number of courts, number of the cases, and all this. Number of live cases, you can see more than 4 lakh cases. So we are done with the polity, very less topics obviously. We'll discuss the minor legislations in one session only. There are few legislations that have been discussed, whether they become an act or whether in the from the bill. We'll discuss them somewhere down the line, right? Now we'll see the ecology section, the last section. Now in the ecology, the first section, the first thing we're going to discuss is UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat the Desertification. Now I'm planning to tell you from the story from the Earth Summit itself with facts. So I think it will I'll cover it in the coming months because it will clear you the basic structure, what is going on. For example, from Earth Summit there are basically 3 things, right? UNFCCC, UN Convention on Biodiversity, and Agenda 21. Under this United Nations Convention or CCD is there. So why it's in the news, I will cover this somewhere, but currently we'll focus on this. So why it's in the news, India for the first time will host the 14th COP 14. What is COP? Conference of the Parties, right? That means 14 times they are meeting under this particular convention. So commitment at the previous edition, India has committed to restore 13 million hectares of degraded and deforested land by the year 2020. By the year 2020, the government has said that we will restore 13 million hectares of degraded and deforested land. An additional 8 million hectares by 2030. Okay, so these are Indian commitment to UNCCD, Convention to Combat Desertification. Related news is with respect to bond challenge. We'll cover bond challenge in detail, but just for the here, a global efforts to bring 150 million of the world's deforested and degraded land under the restoration by 2020 and similar commitments till 2030. You can see similarity in the commitments, but these are the figures for the world, not India. So first, this UN, it is established in 1994. It is the only legally binding, remember it's a legally binding international agreement linking environment and the development issue to the land agenda. Okay. Now your work is to tell me in the comments that which SDG is related to the land. Sustainable Development Goal linked to the land. Global Land Outlook is published by the UNCCD. Okay. It has 3 major conventions. United Nations 3 major conventions. I was telling you UNFCCC, CBD and this UNCCD. Okay, so as the dynamic of the land, you can see here in the very introduction they have mentioned the point of convergence. At the dynamic of the land, climate change, biodiversity are intimately connected. UNCCD collaborates closely with the other 2 Rio conventions. First, Convention on the Biological Diversity and United Nations Framework for Convention on the Climate Change. Right? Okay. Next is the area under the threat. Just to tell you the extent of the problem. For example, in India, total geographical area is 328.7 million hectares and 96.4 million hectares under threat. So that is around 30% of the Indian area is under threat. 30%, that's a big figure. Okay, now Indian pledge are these Indian pledge for the bond challenge, right? Globally also a lot of issues are going on. The tendency for desertification, right? Solutions are, what are the causes? You can see from here: overexploitation, farm practices, excessive chemical fertilizer, overgrazing, deforestation, poor irrigation practices, solutions, afforestation, water management, right? Watershed management, sustainable farm practices, integrated farm management, like this. Now, Bond challenge, just to have a cursory look. Okay, so a 2020 target was launched the high-level event in Bonn 2011, organized by government of Germany and IUCN, right? So government of Germany and IUCN has come up with this and was later endorsed and extended to 2030 by New York Declaration on the Forest on United Nations Climate Summit. Okay, to date 56 government have pledged over this particular thing, including India, right? So this is Bonn challenge. I have not discussed Bonn challenge formally, but because it was mentioned here, so that is why we have, that is there, that is why we have discussed it, right? Now coming to the next thing, normalized difference vegetation index. It's a bit logical, so try to understand. For example, it is saying that this green forest, this green tree is reflecting the infrared 50%, but is reflecting the visible red only 8%. So if we can come up with an index, for example, if you see this picture, so this green thing and this is not a green thing. So it is reflecting infrared a lot and visible at less. Infrared a lot and visible at less. So if we can come up with an index where we can show by the numbers, by remote sensing and all these things, that which area are the vegetations is here, then it can be really helpful, isn't it? By just remote sensing itself, we get to know that which area is the vegetation is fine and which area vegetation is not green. So now we'll see the normalized difference vegetation index quantifies vegetation by remotely measuring the difference between the near infrared and the which vegetation strongly reflects and the red light which vegetation absorbs, right? So red light is absorbed by the vegetation and infrared is reflected by the vegetation. This has been used to estimate the amount of the food abundance available to the herbivorous animals. So if it is green, then it will be used as a food, otherwise they also won't eat it. And can be used, now you can see the application, can be used to track the presence of the elephants using the vegetation they consume. The vegetation they consume, right? Elephants. Okay. So how do you calculate NDVI? So this formula, not too much important for you. Now the healthy vegetation, just to reiterate the facts, the healthy vegetations reflect more near infrared and green light compared to the other wavelengths, but it absorbs more red and the blue light, right? And this is all relevant for you. So for remote sensing and all these things, it is relevant. What can come in the science and tech also, in the science and tech portion, that this fact that near infrared is more reflected and the visible is more absorbed. That's all you need to know for the science and tech portion also. Next, the fracking. Must have heard of this fracking. So it is used in the shale gas extraction. So fracking is the process of drilling down the earth before a high pressure water mixture is directed at the rock, releasing the gas inside. Water, sand and chemical are injected into the rock at high pressure, which allows the gas to flow out in the head of the well. For example, this diagram, very easy. So this is the well. You put water, sand, chemicals into this. So fracking is horizontal fracturing. So horizontally it will go into this and it will fracture this shale deposits. Okay. So it will fracture this shale deposit. From there, the gas will go in this direction and it will go up and it will go out, right? So this is how we'll get the shale gas. However, if you talk about the problems in that, a lot of water goes inside and a lot of water pollution, groundwater contamination, the air quality degradation is there. That is the problem with the shale gas extraction. Okay. So hydraulic fracturing, that is fracking. Okay. Hydraulic fracturing. This is also relevant, the basins for the shale gas exploration. So you can see the basins important. It is in the Ganga basin, Cambay basin. I think it's already been asked in UPSC. The probable, I told you, if not told you, I'm telling you, the energy resources are highly relevant for UPSC prelims. Whether it be shale gas, whether it be natural gas hydrates. We have discussed natural gas hydrate, I believe. Yes. flammable ice, remember? So shale gas, natural gas hydrate, these are highly relevant. Then Assam Arakan Basin, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. The Damodar Valley, Gondwana Basin, West Bengal. Krishna Godavari Basin, Andhra Pradesh. Kaveri Basin in the Tamil Nadu. Right? Next is winter grade diesel. So Indian Oil Corporation for high latitude, from the name itself it is clear, winter grade diesel. So diesel that is for the winters, in the winter areas, in the areas which has very low temperature. So IOC has come up with this because Ladakh has the low pore temperature of 33 degrees Celsius. The question can come, what is pour point? So the pour point is the temperature below which the liquid loses its flow characteristics, right? For example, 0 degrees Celsius, the liquid can also flow, but there will be a temperature after that it will become solid and it will not flow very quickly, right? No, not become solid itself, very viscous, not able to flow properly. Next is Air Traffic Flow Management Central Command Center. So from the name itself, try to decode everything from the name itself so that you have to read as less as possible. Air Traffic Flow Management Central Command Center. From the name itself, it is showing that it will try to manage the air traffic flow, right? The flights and the congestion, all these things. Now we'll read. So being opened in New Delhi, it seeks to optimize the utilization of resources like airspace and aircraft at the capacity constrained Indian airport. Many times we have seen, because of the runways full by the airport, one airline has to go round and round on the same space, and a lot of fuel is been consumed there. Environmental problems, economic problems. India has now become the 7th country to have a centralized air traffic flow management. Brazil already had it, we'll see. So they are saying that how much we can save from this. How much we can save from this? We can save around this much hours, the delays, this fuel saving of this, the carbon emission in this, right? And that is why we must have this, these systems, okay? So to decongest the sky, now you get it, right? So Brazil has savings of 5 million per year, 5 million per year saving from this system, okay? Next is world first emission trading system. Now this is not emission trading system. We had already emission trading system. This is an emission trading system for the particulate matters. Now first you need to understand what is an emission system is. If you have read about Kyoto Protocol and joint implementation and all this, you know about it. But just to revise your limits. For example, the government says, or any particular act says that this is the limit up to which you can consume pollute the atmosphere. Now this particular company B is using this portion more. However, the other company is using the less. So the trading system will be that this company will this permits they are not using, so they will sell this permit to this company, and this company will sell this permit to the other company. What will happen? The company which is using the new technologies is trying to save it, which is spending extra money, will get the incentive to keep on doing it. And these companies which are producing more and more carbon dioxide, they have an incentive, okay, we have to reduce because we have to pay to the other company, right? So by this, having this mechanism, including the economy into the ecological concerns, we can address the problem of the CO2, excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So now this trading system has been launched for the particulate pollution, because now India is facing a problem of air pollution, right? So this can be a good step. World's first emission trading system for the particulate pollution starts in the Surat. The emission trading system has been implemented by the Gujarat Pollution Control Board in coordination with the research from the other university, Yale University, Abdul Latif, Jameel, Poverty Action Lab, and all this. Okay. Controlling the particulate matter pollution, a move that can cut the pollution levels by as much as 29%. The logic is the same, that the logic we had for the CO2 emissions, but this logic is for the particulate matters. Next is Global Carbon Project. Every month we are discussing few random, not random I should say, but very peripheral topics, because in environment these topics are coming. So next we discuss Global Carbon Project. It started in 2001 to help the international science community to establish a common, mutually agreed knowledge base to slow the rate of the increase in the GHG in the atmosphere. To slow the rate of the GHG in the atmosphere, right? So we have to reduce the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Partners are global research projects of Future Earth and research partners of the World Climate Research Program. Observations: China's emission trading accounted for 20. So we all know this. We don't have to remember this. In the total projection, China, then US, then India, and if you take per capita, then India goes way behind. Okay. Next is, this was interesting, and you need to know this. That is fall armyworm. So fall armyworm, or this name, I don't think this name is important. It's an invasive species which is a native of America. Invasive species means it's a native to the other place. Now it's there in the other place. Invasive means it is causing trouble to this place. That's all. First detected in Karnataka, this now has spread to West Bengal and the Gujarat. It attacks the crop of particularly of maize and other crops also. What you need to remember is that the government also has come up with a website to curb this. That goes to show a lot of concern for this particular invasive species, right? You can see here 1 lakh hectare of farmland protected from the fall armyworm. Now this news is from November itself. We started we are cutting the June affairs, right? So a lot of steps, very quick steps have been taken because it will directly impact the food security of the people and the livelihood security of the farmers, and additional fiscal burden on the government itself. Okay. So when scientists still are saying that deadly farm armyworm are here to stay. So now remember, invasive species almost all over the country, particularly the maize, also other crops are also covered, and steps have been taken. Next is Dal Lake to be eco-sensitive zone. So the Jammu Kashmir Union Territory, just 1 second, yes, has set up a 10-member committee that will declare the Dal Lake as an eco-sensitive zone. Okay. So the area of Dal Lake has shrunk from 31 kilometers square. It has shrunk to 24. So area is decreasing of Dal Lake. Achha, Dal Lake is not a Ramsar site. Remember that. Dal Lake is not a Ramsar site. Earlier 26 Ramsar sites are there. Now they have been increased to around 37. We will have a dedicated impetus series planned very quickly, very soon on the Ramsar sites. So the lake has witnessed significant changes in the land use and the cover apart from increasing the human population. The Environmental Protection Act does not mention the word eco-sensitive zones, right? So this particular act, now this act, EPA, does not mention this word eco-sensitive zones. However, two of the provisions of the act are used to declare a portion as the eco-sensitive zones. So eco-sensitive zones are not mentioned. However, the act's provisions are used to declare a particular place as eco-sensitive zone. Very easy. So the section 3 to 5 of act, you can read about this. The central government can restrict area in which industry operation process can also be carried out, shall not be carried out certain safeguard. Beside this other section, the central government can prohibit and restrict the location of industry and carrying out certain operations on the basis of the considerations like biological diversity of the area, maximum allowable limit of the concentration of the pollutants, environmentally compatible land use, and proximity to the protected area. Don't have to remember that. Just remember that this particular thing, eco-sensitive zone, is not in the act, but however there are provisions in the act with which we can have this particular area declared as the eco-sensitive zone. Okay, now these two clauses have been effectively used for the government to declare an eco-sensitive zone or ecologically fragile areas, right? So Dal Lake, location of Dal Lake in the Srinagar, and the Dal Lake is here only. Same criteria has been used by the government to declare the no developmental zones as well, and for that there are different criteria are there, right? So Jammu Kashmir government set up a panel to declare Dal Lake as an eco-sensitive zone. About Dal Lake, it is also known as the summer capital of the Jammu and Kashmir. Dal Lake, which is the second highest lake in the state, okay, summer capital, is integral to the tourism and recreation. It is called the jewel in the crown of the Kashmir, or the Srinagar's jewel. It's an important source of commercial operation in the fishing and the water plant harvesting. located in this Zabarwan mountain valley in the foothills of the Shankaracharya hills. So the question can come in this way also. They will give you that about the lake that located in the Zabarwan valley foothills of the Shankaracharya hills. Something it's been shrinking and recently declared as the eco-sensitive zone, or government is planning to declare it as eco-sensitive zone. Identify the lake. Option 1 Wular Lake, option 2 Dal Lake, option 3 Somorori Lake, option 4 Harike Reservoir, something like that, right? So you need to be prepared for the questions like this. Next is plastic parks. Central government has approved setting up of 6 plastic parks in different parts of the country. Okay, the parks will have an ecosystem with the infrastructure building from the name itself, parks, like mega food parks. So plastic parks, government is saying we will provide infrastructure to produce, right? What is park? Basically get all the facilities nearby. So it will lead to the economy of scale and the reduction of the expenditure, especially the operating costs. Okay, enabling the common facility to consolidate and synergize the capacity of domestic downstream plastic processing industry. Under the scheme, the government provides grant of 50% of the project cost. Okay, the remaining project cost is funded by the state government and the loan from the financial institution. Currently, they are located in, we'll see the locations. Out of them, plastic park at this MP is functional. 4 other plastic parks have been given the in principle approval. And Odisha is making its very headways in doing the work. Odisha has this place. Now remember, there are 6 plastic plants have been approved. 2 in the MP, that is Timoth and Bilua. This is the location. 1 in Devghar, Jharkhand, then in Assam, then in Odisha near Paradeep, and finally near one Karnataka. Okay, so 4 into 6. Okay, I think they have missed this particular arrow. I've taken directly from the plastic park website only, but they have missed it. Next is now we'll discuss few plants and the animals, and then we'll end our session. Then it balasam or the jewel weeds. What is this balasam? The question can come recently. The balasams were in the news. So these plants are highly sensitive to the climatic condition, extremely drought, such as extreme drought on extended exposure to sunlight. More than 230 balasam have been found in India, majority in the eastern Himalaya and the western Ghat. Okay, consisting of both annual and the perennial herb. They are plants with high endemism. Because of their bright, beautiful flowers, this group of plants are prized horticulture significance. Right. One of the important component of the horticulture is the flowers also. Not only fruits and vegetable, but flowers are also considered important component of the horticulture. In fact, our agricultural export policy says that we will focus on these premium areas, especially on these premium areas, right? So this is the jewel weed. Okay, you can see the colorful flowers. So Eastern Himalaya treasury of the balsam yields 20 new species. That is why it was in the news, and that is why we have covered also here. Okay, it was in the Hindu, that is why we have covered. Remember Eastern Himalaya. Next is Arogya Pacha. Okay, so what is the Arogya Pacha? Scientists decoded its genome. It is known as the miracle plant due to its medicinal properties. It is known for the traditional use for the Kani tribal communities. Okay, to combat the fatigue. Studies have also proven its antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, anti-tumor, everything anti-ulcer and all these properties. Where it is found? In the Agastya Hills in the southern western Ghats. Locate yourself, right? I have given you so many locations. This one you can do on your own. That is endemic to the Agastya Hills in the southern western Ghats. Next is water clinic for the elephants. Okay, so we have a clinic for the elephants. India has opened its first specialized hydrotherapy treatment for the elephants suffering from arthritis, joint pain, and the food elements. So the elephants which have these problems, the humane approach, isn't it? Near the Wildlife SOS Elephant Conservation Center and Conservation and Care Center in the Mathura, UP. Okay, in the Mathura, UP, we have this water clinic. So water clinic for elephants open on the bank of the Yamuna. Okay, they can do spas and enjoy themselves, but they have problem. That is why they will be included in that. Now we'll see Indian elephant. So basically, it's an endangered on the IUCN Red List. Okay, it's a Schedule 1 animal under the Wildlife Protection Act, and Section 9 of that prohibits the capture from the wild. The capturing of the wild animal is permitted only under the very limited circumstances. but that's in the act itself, Wildlife Protection Act. You need to remember it's an endangered species. Project Elephant, okay, along with the Project Tiger that we have covered in detail in our impetus series. Do watch our impetus series. We have covered in detail our tiger things, right? So we also launched Project Elephant. I think in 1992 we have launched that. Next is Sambar deer. So Sambar deer is the vulnerable, first of all, vulnerable in the IUCN Red List, state animal of Odisha. Native ranges is Indian subcontinent, southern China and Southeast Asia. So not endemic to India. Remember that, okay? It's native to the Indian subcontinent, southern China and this, okay? It's a scheduled 3 animal according to the Wildlife Protection Act. So you need to know the difference between schedule. There are so many schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 schedule in the WPA. We'll try to cover in the next session or the coming sessions in the ecology. We have already 7 more sessions for ecology itself, right? We'll cover a lot of ground. So IUCN has listed the Sambar as the vulnerable, and the hunting insurgency, yes, in the Odisha insurgency, right? And the exploitation of habitat has contributed to the decline of the Sambar population. The stag normally live alone while lives in the herd, right? Next is Golden Langur breeding project. So location is Assam. Assam government has taken this particular step. So the Golden Langur conservation project was undertaken at the Assam State Zoo in Guwahati during the year of 1112. Founded by the Central Zoo Authority, an isolated and undisturbed site with the zoo was chosen to provide the natural habitat for the primates with the golden langur endemic to the Assam. Their IUCN status is endangered. How you should make notes? You should make a notes like this: critically endangered, simultaneously endangered, simultaneously vulnerable, simultaneously. It will help you. Okay, so apart from the northeast Assam, the population is also found in Bhutan and the Tripura. You can see nearby Assam location. You can see here, right? Golden langur, so beautiful, isn't it? Next is Asiatic golden cat. First of all, why it is in news? Now, newspaper says that in Arunachal, the golden cat wears the new color. So, different colors of the golden cat. Different colors, right? Different. Okay. So, the scientists have found that its coat comes in 5 other shades. That is cinnamon, grey, melantistic, ocelot, and highly roseate. You can see all the colors. For example, this once again. You can see all the colors here, right? Now, they have mentioned clockwise from the top. So this one is cinnamon, this one is golden, this one is grey, then highly roseate, then this one is melantistic, that is ocelot, okay, and finally highly roseate. Okay, IUCN status is near threatened, so not important IUCN status. Only 3, I think, in my opinion, are important. That is critically endangered, and vulnerable ones. The golden is no longer the only color. An elusive Asian golden cat can be associated with. It is found across the eastern Nepal through northeastern India to Indonesia. So you can see the range itself, right? From Nepal to the northeast India and then southeast Asia. Next is miracle crab and white crabfish. So IUCN status is vulnerable. It's a species of the ray-finned fish in the crab family, native to the streams and rivers India. More importantly, it is the only surviving wild population in the Kaveri river. Okay, and that's what you need to remember. It's an widely aqua farmed, and population exists outside its native range as well. Maximum length of 1 meter, right? Long one. Next is Assam roof turtle. Why it's in news? Because in Assam, people have made one towel. These activists are banking on the gamosa, a woven with the image of the endangered turtle. So they have on this particular towel, they have made this turtle for the conservation itself. So beautiful gesture, isn't it? A multi-purpose Assamese gamosa, a ubiquitous white cotton towel, has been assigned a new function: conservation of the rare freshwater turtle, Assam roof turtle. Key fact: an endangered small water species protected under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Okay. Next is Malabar tree toad. It's a very rare species of the amphibian endemic to the Western Ghats. So endemic word is there. Okay. Status is endangered. So endangered it is. Okay, it spends most of its life on the trees, coming to the ground only during the first monsoon shower to mate, to reproduce. Okay, different varieties of frog. One more variety we'll see, paddy frog. Okay, found in the northeast India. From the name itself, paddy frog, it comes. Don't remember कि paddy hai, तो paddy is in West Bengal or in the UP or some these places. No, or the south. It is in the northeast. Discovered by the researchers from the northeast, primarily in Assam. The frog belongs to the genus. Not important. Okay, that too much in news. Not too very important. Peripheral, very peripheral species. But just for the sake of covering, we have to cover it, right? Okay, so paddy frog we have done. So this is the end of our session, relatively long session, and from now on the sessions will go relatively more long, because we gonna cover a lot of the stuff, the remaining stuff. I told you, right, we'll not leave almost nothing. We'll try to cover almost every aspect, though, so that there is no exclusion error. Okay, so we have done economy, polity and ecology. So for June, our 4th session is over. Okay, so for now we have 14 sessions till now, and next in the next class we're going to see the session number 5, art and culture, science and technology, art and culture and the defense. Okay, then see you in the next class. Give your response on the our comment sections. We are awaiting for a response and the feedback. Do tell us how we are doing, what we can improve, what extra things we can do. For example, one of the aspirants, Abhishek Nair, have seen the comment. He sends a please cover the course. So Amrita Institute and myself have decided that we will come up with different series itself, that will be explain it series. So we'll try to cover the small issues there. Otherwise, I've tried to cover in our international affair, but if it will be too much, isn't it? Okay, the length of the session will go long. So we'll have a separate videos for that. Okay, then see you in the next class with these topics. Thank you.